I'm really glad you're here. I'm delighted to have met you in this last year, maybe year and a half, maybe 2 years. And you bring a true wisdom to our group. You just instinctively know the thing that is the truest thing. You're listening within so closely. And I really appreciate that about you, both in the collective, but in coaching, it feels like you went so much deeper and really looked at yourself and said, who am I really? What do I really care about? Am I really trusting myself? I'm curious to start the conversation. When we first met, what were the things that were most heavy for you or weren't clear for you?
One of the things that really wasn't the clearest was, as you say, it was just, I was at the point where I hit 40, I'm homeschooling, I want to do this, I want to do that. There's so many things you want to do, but then you're like, what do I do? What do I really want? And why do I really want it? And I think because I have always been the person to do for everyone else, to make sure I'm there for everyone, take care of everyone. You want to do the thing that will be best for everyone versus the thing that's best for you. And I
Mhm.
think I was afraid to really look and see what was the best thing for me, and then hoping that it would turn out to be the best thing for everybody else versus doing it the other way around, which is where I would normally come from. So that was the thing I was most afraid to discover, but then I'm glad I did.
Oh, then I got to ask, why were you afraid to discover it?
It's that thing where, as I said, like, you really want everybody to be okay, and whenever you venture into something new, you don't know how it's gonna go, and you don't want to do something that could hurt the people closest to you or around you, so you are afraid of stepping into that thing that you know, like, in the back of your mind and your heart, "That's really what I wanna do, but I don't know
Mhm.
how this is going to affect everyone, and will they be supportive?" and all those things. But then as I've gone through the process, you learn that what is best for me is what's best for them because it trickles into everything else. So the happier I become, the more comfortable I become with myself, the better everything around me gets. My kids see it, my husband see it, my family sees it, so it's nice.
That's
It's
so
nice
good. That's
to
like probably the first mic drop of this conversation because this is what my experience is with you that you say these things that are just so intuitive and they really do represent so many women's stories. When we are trained, I don't know if it's trained or if it's just like an instinct, we want to serve the people in our world. We want to give them everything, but we're not asking ourselves, hey, what do we need? Who are we? And maybe, just like you said, us being our most authentic selves and coming from a place of fullness, as serving not just our kids, but ourselves, it didn't seem intuitive to me.
I don't think it's intuitive for most. I don't know, it's just always been one of those things that I've been told my entire life. There was just something that's in me that I don't know where it comes from or anything, but I've just always been comfortable with going inward. I was never really that kid. Like, you have those that are afraid of silence. Like,
Mm,
to sit with yourself and be with yourself and just be alone and just be with your own thoughts, your mind, and all those things. It was never something that I was afraid of. I do solitude. I like being by myself. I like quiet, to be honest. Sometimes to the point where, and because of over the time, all the jobs and stuff I've done, like when it gets too quiet, my ears ring,
mm,
but I don't mind that either
mm,
because it reminds me that, yes, like, it's quiet and there's nothing happening, and I don't know, it's just nice.
mm.
The silence is nice to me, and I guess, like, it's weird for a lot of people, so, I don't know, I like silence. I don't need background noise, music, anything like that most times.
Well,
I
that
can
can be
just
a
sit.
challenge being a homeschool mom. I'm
And there's
with you
always
on that too.
so much noise from the kids and all the things, it's like you add more, and I find that is at times what's overwhelming for me sometimes. It's just too much noise, too much. The kids are going, there's probably the TV or something in the background and all the things. It gets too much for me, and I think that's why a lot of times I kinda gravitate back to just it being silent and just no noise, just peace so that my body can relax because I feel like
Mhm.
it just gets me wound up when everything's just going.
So when you can relax and get into your body, then you're able to listen more closely within to know what's really going on and what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that old narrative that you're speaking to before about you not asking yourself, what do you want? What do you want to do? Are you able to hear it more closely, or what brings you to listen to it more closely?
Have you ever read the book, oh my goodness, what is it? Is it Untamed by Glennon Doyle?
Yes, it's on my
Yes,
list for
okay,
this
so you
next.
remember the part where she said she locks herself in the closet?
No, tell me.
Yes,
That's a common
it was, like,
conversation
in the
I hear.
beginning where I think, like, everything just really got so overwhelming for her that she just went and she just locked herself in the closet, and it was more of a breakdown, but then just realizing that all you need to do is shut everything else out.
Mm,
Shut out all the input from your friends, your family, your kids, like, everyone telling you, "You should be this, you should do that," all those things, and
mm,
just going to yourself and just waiting for the answer because it will eventually come. It might not come instantly, and I think that's also the thing that sometimes we want the answer right away. Sometimes it might take months of just asking yourself the same question and just waiting and being okay with the wait. And then eventually you'll start to realize all the things that is truly from you versus from everyone else, because we all have those expectations on us from life, motherhood, friendships, family, all those things. And it starts to, at times, get muddy where you're not sure, is this me or am I doing it because of this? Or is this that someone wanted me to do this? And because there's so much happening all the time. So it's really hard to know what is truly from you versus things that you've taken on over the years from external sources, and you have to wait for that. It's hard because we don't like to wait, and I will say that, like, it's the hardest thing to wait for the answer
when did
is
you first notice maybe the tension between who you thought you were and who you felt you were allowed to be, or as you shared, when you started to feel, or when you had permission to listen within and not just listen without?
I think it was probably, like, it was nearing 40. It was, like,
Mm,
when it's I think it may have started maybe around, like, 38 going 39, and, like, you're getting closer to such a big age. Like, I've been on this earth for 40 years, and then you start to really see where you are in life, and then you know all the things you wanted, but
mhm,
then you might not be there, and you're like, "Okay, so I didn't do all the things that I'd wanted to do, all these things," so now you start to think, "Okay, now it's too late," or "I should have done this, maybe I should have made that decision," and all these things, and then you start to get to a point where, you know what? I started to not care
mm,
that I wasn't meeting, like, the ideals of what you should have achieved by this point in
mm,
your life, and I just said, and I think, and this is also because I probably read a lot of books, like, I love reading.
yeah.
And it was shortly before I turned 40, I think I read the book The Gap and the Gain, or it
Mm,
was just after.
mhm,
It forced me, not necessarily forced me, but as you're going through the book, it really allows you to go back and look at all the things
mm,
you've done, how far you've come, to see, okay, you might not be where you want to be, but you are a lot farther ahead than you think you are. So knowing all of that is just take a minute to celebrate what you've done and to say, okay, with all of what I have done, what did I like doing? What is bringing me the most joy right now? And
mm,
how can I continue with that and maybe incorporate some other things to take a different path? Because sometimes we'll also get stuck in, maybe I went to school for restaurant management, and
mm,
I worked in restaurants for quite a few years. And then after leaving that and becoming a stay-at-home mom, like, you really started to feel that, I don't know if it's a pull, but there's this sort of, like, dissonance between who you were and who you are now, and feeling, "Okay, I need to go back and do that." But for me personally, I couldn't work away from my kids. Like, it broke me nearly. Whenever I had to go to work, it was very hard for me, and it's not like that for everyone, but you get to a point where you feel like you have to do certain things because that's what society expects of you, and then you take a different path, and then sometimes it's going against the grain, and then now you feel like, "Oh, maybe I should have gone back and done that," and all of these things, but it's, I guess it's getting comfortable with that uneasiness of knowing that what you're going to do is what you want, but it might not be what others may think you
mhm,
should do or
yeah,
what's best for you. But it's knowing that you've developed a lot of life experience to know when something is a good decision versus a bad decision. And
Yeah.
yes, it might not be what someone else would have done, but if you feel that's the best decision for you in that moment, then go ahead and just go with it and see where it goes. It may not go where you want it to, but it's there for a reason. You're
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
the inclination for a reason. You have the desire for a reason. So it's just to test it out. It might last for a few weeks, a few months, a few years, or it might last forever. You never know, but you have to try because it won't go away.
Yeah. I notice when I came across this paper yesterday, when I first started officially coaching, and I was looking at who I thought I was serving, and I thought she was younger than she actually is. And she's usually hovering around the 40 birthday. And I find it interesting because the things that you're saying coincide with the whole perimenopause experience. And there's this one particular Instagram, I guess, influencer presence who she's just hilarious. She's got 3 pairs of readers on, and she's got a highlighter that she's like pulling it out of her mouth, this one. And she's like,
Uh-oh.
okay, so we do not care that these things are happening. We are going to do things the way we want to do it anyway. And she has a lot of these reels about we do not care list. And it's all about menopause, going into the menopause thing. And the hormones, the energy around that, carpe diem. This is our last half of our lives where we truly have the energy of it's really working for me and what's not.
Yeah.
Because stuff that doesn't work for me, I'm like, I'm out. It just doesn't fit anymore. And so I wonder if part of the conversations I'm routinely having with women, it's part of that, that we have that energy. We're invited to the other part of life that says, and who are you? Would you share with me? Who are you? What are you here for? It's your time. We're going to focus on you. And the funny thing is that we have a unique scenario as homeschool parents in that energy, in that experience of also not saying we don't care about our family. We fully care about our family. We want to be with them too. And also, here we are. We want to take up space in our own life.
And that was a hard thing for me too, having decided to
Mm.
be a homeschool mom
Yeah.
and then deciding, okay, I want to have a business as well. Is why are you trying to do so much? Why can't you wait until maybe they want to go back to school or they've left the house or all these things? And it's again that expectation where you feel locked into this is what you chose to do. So now why are you trying to do something else? Why are you not okay with giving your full attention to the thing that you chose? But it doesn't mean that I don't give my full attention to it. It just means I needed to be okay with the fact that I needed something outside of my kids and my family that was just for me.
Yeah.
And I think in the beginning, I wasn't okay with saying that
Yeah. Me neither. Yeah.
because I thought it was selfish. It's like, no,
Conversation.
how dare you?
Mhm. Yeah, I never thought I would have this kind of conversation. And in the back of my head, I still hear my younger self saying, really? Is that really what you thought when you're going into motherhood? And the answer is no. But whether it's the perimenopausal energy or I don't know what it is, but there is something that just says also, hey, have you met you, Teresa? You're not just mother, although the role of mother is beautiful. And the opportunities we have in this home education space as a mother is just off the charts fun and so many memories and recreating our own childhoods in happy ways. There's wonderful things here, of course, or I wouldn't be here. But also, and also, who are you? Who are you?
And I'm grateful to my mom too, because she's always said it to me after I had my second and he started like walking and talking and all those things. Every once in a while, she would say, you have to start finding something for yourself because eventually they won't need you. And what are you going to do?
Mhm.
And then she's the one who, whenever I try to pull back and say, no, I'll wait, she's like, but they're growing up. What are you going to do when they don't need
Wise.
you? You have to start now. Start building your sense of style. Start building something for yourself so that when they do leave you, because they will, you
Mhm.
don't feel so lost. And I think she is speaking from experience. She had
Exactly.
2 kids, right?
Mhm.
So it's nice to have that reminder every once in a while that yes, it might be scary and you might feel like you shouldn't be doing it right now,
Mhm.
but now is the time to start small.
What was the first small decision where you stopped explaining yourself and started trusting yourself?
I think it was when I started, not when I started my YouTube channel, but when I started to put videos on YouTube that were what I had always wanted to do, but was just scared to do it, and then I was told not to do those kinds of things because so many other people was doing it. But then once I started and said, "You know what? This is what I wanted. This is why I came on here in the first place. It wasn't to
Yeah.
do the other stuff." And then once I started doing that, it felt freeing.
So
It's
what are you
almost
actually doing? Tell me what you are actually doing on YouTube. I know what
so
you're
I
teaching other
do
people.
what in, like, the crochet world is called DIY tutorials, but
Mhm.
I like to say I do a little bit more than just, like, showing someone how to make it. Really like to walk people through the steps of, especially because I like making garments,
Mhm.
cardigans, tops, that sort of thing. I like to walk people through not just the steps of, say, do this many stitches or X, Y, or Z, but it's showing people the correlation between measuring yourself, understanding your own body and what it is you're trying to achieve in making that thing, because the two come together. So knowing your own measurements, how your body is, how you like things to fit, you have to know and understand all of those things going
Mm,
in, making a
mm.
piece for yourself versus just following someone else's instructions to the letter, because you're going to want to make those adjustments for you because you're making it for yourself. So once you understand how to make those adjustments to fit your body, changes how you make stuff for yourself.
So just even the experience of doing what you're doing, setting aside time to do both the crocheting and incorporating YouTube and creating a business around it, how has that changed your energy as a mom?
I think that is what gives me energy most times.
Mm,
To do all the mothering and the schooling and all the things because I've always been creatively inclined, like, ever since I was young. I like making stuff. I started sewing when I was really young. I like music. I played a little bit of music in school, like, I learned to play a couple of instruments. I don't play anymore. I do want to learn guitar again,
yeah.
but I just like creatively trying things, trying to make things, seeing where things can go, tinkering. Just those things just make me happy. And I
Mhm.
find when I do those things that feed my soul, and I am a happier person and I pour more into everyone else around me. And I think everyone notices too. I'm so much happier when I
Mhm.
get to create and to tinker and to come out of the basement and be like, "Oh, I made this."
Literally out of the basement. Yes.
Literally.
Yes. What have you noticed about your kids as you've given yourself more permission to live fully?
I think they've become a little bit more open with kind of exploring things that they like versus just doing the work that I give them. Because one, now he's learning to play the recorder, but he likes it so much, he'll just be like, "Oh, can I borrow your laptop?" And then he'll take his recorder and he'll come into the basement and he'll just learn little songs and then he'll come back and he'll tell you he learned the song and he'll play the song. So it's just starting to notice them noticing their own interests, because my older son, he's starting to get, like, interested in badminton. I'm not, like, a sporty person, but my
Mhm.
husband takes him and they'll play around. So he's really starting to get interested, but it's really nice to
Mm,
just see them start to be more open with
mhm.
their interests because they're starting to become more comfortable because I guess I became more comfortable with tinkering with stuff even outside of my crochet. I've been trying a lot of other crafts lately as well, and I keep saying I'm gonna try sourdough. I did do a starter, but then I don't know what I did to it, but then it went sideways and I haven't tried again yet. But it's just those things where they get to see me do the things that I love, like making, baking, cooking, pouring love into others, just like those things, just like I light up every time I do it. So I think they've started to see it because I've started to become a lot more comfortable just
Mm.
doing it just because they'll see me do things like I've recently gotten into diamond painting and they're like,
Mm.
"Oh, you're doing another one." I'm like, "Yeah, just because I like it.
Yeah.
I just like it. It's nice to do some things." So it's really nice to be able to get to that point of comfort with my creativity and just knowing that, like, I just like to do these things, and I'm just going to do it and not feel like it's a waste of time because I know
Right.
sometimes our creative outlets can seem like a waste of time or maybe a little bit indulgent to
Yeah,
say.
I remember
Yeah.
that. Actually, I remember having that conversation with a friend ages ago, and she's, I don't know how you let yourself just write, be creative, and do things like that because I feel like I'm wasting time. If it's not paid, then I feel like I'm wasting time. And I think that's like a cultural thing where I think we've talked about this recently, actually, about productivity in our culture, that our culture is demanding productivity, expects that we use our time in ways that are meaningless at times. It teaches us, even within our homeschooled activities, that we should be checking boxes and we should achieving all the things within whatever textbook or workbook or curriculum we purchase. We should always be doing things. We should be getting the kids to do things, not just being present to doing something
Yeah.
for the sake of fun.
Because as you say that, I remember there was a few weeks ago, my youngest, all he wanted to do was paint. My sister had gotten him a little paint by numbers book.
Mhm.
So it has all the paints and everything. You just give him some water and he can go. And all he wanted to do for almost an entire week was just paint. And he was going through the book, going through the book. And then that little voice pops up in your head. It's, oh, he's not doing the math. He's not doing the English. He's not doing the this, the this, the
Mhm.
this. And you're like, you know what? Just let the
Mhm.
kid paint. Evan,
Yeah.
he wants to paint.
Mhm.
Let him paint. He will be fine. He will be
Mhm.
fine. Like we can pick back up where we left off when he's ready. But I also find when I give them that time where I realize they're not focused on the academics, they want to explore something else. And I give them that time, they come back to the academics more open to it
Yeah.
and ready to actually do it versus just constantly sitting them down and say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this,
Mhm.
and then they get overwhelmed and frustrated and then not want to do it at all. It's
Mhm.
really finding that balance, not in them, but in ourselves to
Mhm.
know that it's okay to relax a little bit and to allow them to explore other things because again, they're also kids. Most times it doesn't last very long. When they
Mhm.
want to do
Yeah.
something else, they'll do it for a few days, maybe a week, and then they're back on to what we would have regularly been doing anyway. So it's realizing that a lot of times it's for us to become comfortable with those unconventional things
Yes,
so
especially
that
not in your culture. Yeah,
so
they're
that
not.
our kids can become comfortable with it because they
Mhm.
get a lot of it from us and we don't realize because a lot of it I'm starting to discover it's not verbal. It's not like you tell them, oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. I really find kids are very intuitive and they pick things up even when you don't want them to.
Yes.
Even when you don't want them to, you realize they're starting to do certain things, but then if you stop and you look at your own behavior, you'll realize, "Oh, that was me, and that's why." So, it's always for us to look in the mirror first before we say, "Kids are this or they're that." It's just like, "What am I doing that is telling them that what they're currently doing is okay?"
Right.
Because at some point, whether I said it or I did it, I did something or said something that made them believe that what they were doing was either right or wrong.
I remember when we were first having conversations, you were talking about wanting to really go into your Caribbean flow and live your life from a Caribbean flow. And we've since had many conversations about productivity, both in the collective and together. And I think this is a disadvantage of our culture. I think it's a disability maybe of our culture that we're so driven to productivity. Because even last Friday, I had this full conversation about productivity and how we need to go towards just being. And you were talking about inviting people over and they don't always want to just be. They just want to, what are we going to do? Or not taking advantage of the time to just be and hang out with you. And then I asked right at the end, so what's everyone doing on the weekend? And it was just an instinct to, I guess, follow my cultural lead. And you're like, just being, I'm just going to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, because I was saying, like, even when I was working and stuff, and it was always the thing where you come back to work on Monday and everyone's like, "Oh, what did you do on the weekend?" And I'm like, "I didn't do anything." "Do anything?" "No, I sat at home with my husband, we watched TV, we went over to our friends, we sat down, watched some more TV, chatted a bit, whatever, but we just hung out, and that's just how I grew up. I just always hung out with my friends. We never really yes, you go to the movies, you do things here and there, but it wasn't always the purpose to do something. The purpose was just seeing them and being with them and talking and chatting and laughing and just having a good time and being in each other's presence
Yeah.
because that's just how I was raised. That's how I hang out with my family all the time. And
It's interesting you say presence because that's the word that I'm thinking about right now is that there's more capacity, or at least it appears to me that there is more capacity to be present when we are just in our flow or when we're not always demanding productivity of ourselves and other people like our kids. And and when we're in our flow, we are more present, not just with ourselves, but with others. And it just feels better. Not to say that there isn't dishes to do or other things that must be done at times, but that presence, I think, is what we're really all craving
yeah,
to be.
yeah, it is. And I remember when I had gone to see my mom and my sister last October, and it was just so nice because I don't see them very often because they live in the States.
Yeah.
And it's just remembering the things that we did. We didn't leave the house for we did for we went to the supermarket, we went shopping a little bit, but we didn't go anywhere
Mm.
till we did this thing. Just sitting and thinking about what we did was we were in the house hanging out. There were days where my sister and I, we sat down and we were just looking at stuff on Amazon. We bought diamond paintings, we hung out, we played music, we cooked dinner, we
Yeah.
just talked, we laughed. But those are the things that you will remember. Yes, sometimes when you go out and you may have a memorable experience, but then as you get older and you sit down and you remember your family and your friends, you always, for me anyway, I always remember just the times where you're just sitting and you're just having a good conversation and you're just spending time with them because that's what means the most as well.
When I'm hearing, even just taking a little bit of a picture of our conversation and all the time we've spent together, I think of the ultimate goal in what we're doing as homeschoolers. What is it? Like I would ask the listener, what are you really trying to accomplish? And I'm not a fierce advocate of making sure your kids never go into a school outside of your homeschool or your home education approach. I'm not actually an anti-school person as much as I am a pro-child, pro-purpose advocate, that you get to live your life on purpose. And this entire lifestyle, this invites you into leaning into who you really are, into what you really want for your life and want to enable for your kids' lives. And that's what I hear in our conversation is that purpose gets distilled, our deeper sense of connection to what's going on right here, right now.
Yeah. And that's why I started homeschool. I didn't start homeschool because I was like, "Oh, I don't want them to go to school and anything like that." My
Mm,
oldest, he went to kindergarten,
mm,
but then he went in 2019 and then COVID hit and then he was at home. But
mm,
the few months he did spend in kindergarten was not fun for him. He
mm,
would cry every morning going to school and he never seemed, you know how some kids go to school and they're just really excited to be at school. They're
mm,
having so much fun. He never seemed to have been having that experience. And
mm,
then once we went into doing virtual school and that sort of thing, at the end of that, when it ended, the teachers asked him, "Oh, are you going to school or are you going to do homeschool?" And he looked at me almost teary eyed and said, "Can we homeschool?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm here. I'm at home. I can totally do that." And then, as I mentioned to you, I think last week, this year coming into 2026, he asked if he wants to go to school now.
mm,
And I'm like, okay, but where we are, the school that is closest to us was the school he went to in kindergarten, and he
mm,
knows he doesn't want to go there. And I'm like, "That's fine if you don't feel comfortable going back," because then this is also one of the things where I know even though he may not be able to verbally say what was going on at school, why he wasn't having a good time, I know that experience stuck with him so deeply that, like, it's on a visceral level where if he thinks of going to that specific school, you can see the discomfort on him. And that's one of the reasons why I do still homeschool. It's because I want them to get to that place where they know themselves well enough to know
yeah.
what they want for themselves. At that point, he wanted to homeschool, and we're
Mm,
homeschooling. And now he's getting to the point where he thinks, okay, maybe I want to go back to school, but I want to choose where I go. And I'm like, that's perfectly fine because I'm not against school. If you think that's what's best for you right now, 100% I'm behind you. The younger one, he says, "No, I don't want to go to school." And I'm like, "Okay, if you don't want to go, we can still homeschool. Your brother can go to school. That's fine." But it's just getting them to that point where they're so comfortable in themselves that they know themselves well enough to say, "This is what I want," and they're comfortable with that decision versus me as the adult saying, "This is what's best for you." I may have an understanding of what might be best for you, but then they are their own people.
that autonomy bit, enabling our kids toward who they really are, just the same as us. If
Yeah.
we create space for ourselves to ask ourselves, what do we really want? Such a powerful part of your journey. And you've been homeschooling since, do you remember how many years it is now?
Virtual school ended, I think this is year 3?
Mm.
Yeah, I think this is, like, year 3 for us.
If you look back to a year ago at how you would define a good day and how you look at a good day now, how do they compare? A good day, what does a good day look like for you now compared to a year before?
Oh, it's so different now.
Mm,
So different. So, when I just started homeschool, when he came off virtual school, I'm like, "Okay, we're homeschooling." A good day would look like when they got through all the work I set out for them to do. And that is what I would define as a good day. We did all the work.
Yeah.
That was it. A good day now is a day where there are not as many emotional breakdowns and when they are open to the work versus having it just like, you have to do this. It's just if we wake up and we come down and it's time for school and I lay out the work and everyone is just ready to go, that's a good day. That day starts off. How much work we get through is based on where they are on that particular day. Sometimes they'll get through more because they slept well, they're more open to it, they're more interested, or there are days where they might only last for a half an hour of math when you probably wanted to do 40 or 45 minutes, but that's okay
So how did
because
you get comfortable moving in that
how
direction?
did I get comfortable? I liked peace. And I think sometimes that is what will force you into making a lot of the decisions when you're homeschooling. It's just, do you want to spend the entire day fighting? Or do you want to spend the day where everyone is happy and taking in some information, enjoying the fact that we're all at home together and we get to do all of these things. And I prefer having at the end of the day that we all still each other and we weren't all screaming at each other for the entire day. Because there were days like that where there were so many tears, so many raised voices, all the things. And you will ask yourself, why am I doing this? And then when you pull back, you realize that's also, I don't necessarily like the term unschooling because it's school, but it's just, it's always our expectation of what we think should happen versus understanding that each of these kids are all different and they're going to learn differently. They're going to be more, they're going to be better at some subjects versus other, going to
Mhm.
be interested in one topic versus another. And understanding that all of those things come into play as well as their emotional state when they come to do the work, then you start to realize, okay, maybe my expectations of them need to be shifted, need to be adjusted
Mhm.
based on what they themselves can accomplish in any given day. Because I find sometimes too, we're trying to put too much into each
Mhm.
day
100%.
because we feel like we have to.
Based on what? Always why? And I know that there's a lot of people listening right now going, but how do you allow yourself to move in that direction and not be concerned about being behind or enabling gaps in their education? How do you address those questions?
And I had those questions too. I had those questions because even when he said he wanted to go to school, my first instinct was, oh my goodness, I feel like he's going to be behind because he doesn't know enough.
Mhm.
But then you realize he probably, even if he was at school, he wouldn't have known enough. What is enough to know? First of all,
Mhm.
because my older, he's in grade 6. And a lot of the times we're doing the work and I'm like, what is this? I don't remember this. And then you realize I must have done it in school at some point, but I don't remember it now. So now I have to relearn it so I can help him learn it. And then you realize, okay, I have gotten to the point where I am now comfortable. My husband always said this, but then I think I had to also come to this for myself. Is just as long as they can read, process information, and figure out how to get to the answer, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Because as
Oh,
adults,
mm,
that's where you get to as an adult. Yes, you go through school and you've learned all these things, but the key is to be able to read and process information
yeah.
and see what is being asked of you and figure out how to answer that question or solve that problem.
I remember in high school not being math proficient, not being confident in math concepts. But I remember thinking, there is just no way I'm going to need to know this for my adulthood. And I do see value in challenging our critical thinking processes or enable every time we learn something that's challenging, it builds neural networks inside of our brains. I'll keep it simple. And so it is really useful. But I was having a conversation with, I think it was my daughter who's in a college level calculus class. And she said some of the kids in class took this in their AP math classes or math classes in high school. And she said, so she's learning it for the first time, but she finds it really fascinating. And yet she's not entirely clear where it will ever be used in life. And I giggled and I said, guess what? I'm 52 and I was right in high school. You will never need this stuff in regular life unless you're doing what my son might be doing, is going into engineering or something math oriented. But I was right. And those high school students out there, I'm not saying that there isn't value in learning upper level, challenging things. Also, I didn't use it.
Yeah. And there's also learning challenging things, if you're interested in them, is different than just learning it because you feel like you have to learn it.
Ask yourself, why do you
Because
feel like you have
there
to?
are some things that they're going to have to learn. You're going to need to be able to do some a lot of basic math. Like, there's a lot of math that you're going to need to know. You
Yeah.
need to
Mhm.
know. But then there are other things where if you have a basic understanding of it, so you
Mm.
can figure out a problem if you need to, then that's fair. If it's something you're interested in and it's hard, even though it's hard, they will try to do it because it interests them. And whether or not they're going to need it down the line is neither here nor there because they're interested in learning something.
That's right. Or it,
Because
it, it meets some purpose, because I see
yeah,
that in my kids too, that they've taken different classes in college or even at the end of high school for the purpose of getting into a program or doing the next step. And it serves that purpose. So you're playing the student role in that part of your life so that you can achieve something else. And I did the same thing. I actually did go back to high school level chemistry in order to do my Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And I had zero intention in revisiting chemistry, but I did because it served a purpose.
yeah.
And so I oftentimes, when I'm talking with people about the gaps concept, because people are concerned about gaps, I don't think you can have a gapless education. Show me anyone who has a gapless education.
Yeah, because you can't know everything.
Nobody knows everything, and everybody has a specialty. And when I'm talking with my husband about emergency medicine, he can talk about that all day. But then when I talk about ophthalmology and my recent eye surgery, that's not necessarily something that it's not his specialty. And so people assume that everybody has crossover knowledge and everything, but actually, I'm not sure how many do. I don't think anybody does.
And if we look at the way the world is now, when I went to school, like when I left high school, I didn't go right into college or university.
Mm,
I started working because that's what I wanted to do. And then I went back and I tinkered with science a little bit. And then I was like,
mm,
actually, no, I don't want to do that. So then I went back to working. And then eventually I went back to do restaurant management because I realized I really did enjoy that. So I went back and I did that. And then I went into that career. And then that's what I try to get my kids to see. It's just like, when I grew up, it was very linear. You went to high school, you went to
mhm.
college or university,
Yeah.
you went to work. But that's not how the world is now. So you have to allow them to figure out all the things that interest them so they can go down those different rabbit holes to see which direction they want to go in because they may not at the end want to go into college because maybe that doesn't interest them, but maybe they can go and do a trade. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe you want to work with your hands or something like that. Or now there's a lot of jobs in tech. Like, I know I have an older one. He is more technologically inclined, so I feel like he might want to go there. Right now, he's not showing a whole lot of interest. He's very good at working with technology, but I don't want to push him into it because I know he's good at it. Because maybe he just is good at it, but he doesn't want to go into it. So it's really looking at what the world is right now and just seeing that, okay, in my mind, I feel like I'm trying to the instinct is to get him to go for school, go into university or college and all the things. But then I have to stop myself and say, for one, that wasn't my journey either. And that might not be his. If it
Mhm.
is, that's great. But
Yeah,
if
I
it's
certainly
not,
it's a funny thing because I've got presently all of my kids will either have gone into college or will have gone all the way through. And yet I truly said these words and said them often when my kids were little. And it is, listen, if you find purpose and meaning by building little rock animal magnets for the fridge and bring them to the market every Saturday, then do that. And I said it jokingly. Nobody has officially done that, although there have been many lemonade stands and a slime business online, which I don't recommend. Keep your kids from doing that because bathrooms everywhere where will regret it. But I remember thinking, this is the point, is are you really doing something that's meaningful to you? I think our entire culture would be benefited if we enabled kids to do meaningful things. But we don't do that. We have these notions of what the right things are, and we should go into STEM or we should go into this program or this school. And I appreciate why they think that. And I'm not saying that those things don't possibly create opportunity. But as per usual, being in the home education space for a long time, I question things and I say, but why are we doing it? Are we really enabling our kids to live a purposeful life? And if we're not, then why are we doing it? Because this life does end. And that's research proven. We see that. We have no evidence otherwise. It's going to end. So what's your destination between age 8 or 7, your youngest, all the way till about 89, 90, maybe? What's he gonna do? Does he get to live out a life that means something to him? Or are we encouraging him down a path that is predictable and maybe is meaningful in the end, but maybe it's not? And not only do we do that for our children, but we do it for ourselves because in this homeschool space, we give enough to our kids that eventually we go, huh, what could I be doing right now? And that's what I've seen in your journey over the last year is that you're moving into who am I? What am I about? What do I want to do? And you're leaning into that too. So it so equips purpose on all levels in our homes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think also the other thing is to look at how we measure success.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, even for myself, that's how you end up doing certain things because we've always been, I was brought up to measure success externally.
Yes.
Like we all were. That's just how it was.
Yeah.
Like you measure success based on the things you have outside of yourself. But I have always been the person to measure success based on how I felt
Mhm.
about what I did or what I didn't do. But then you don't necessarily go around telling everybody, like, oh, it's fine. But I was never one to be motivated by money. Not that I don't like money, I
Mhm.
like having money, but I'm not going to do it just because it's going to make me a lot of money. Business I'm in right now, is it going to make me millions of dollars? Probably not. But am I okay with that? I am, because it makes me extremely happy.
Yeah.
And most people will say whenever I talk about it, you can see my face, like I
Yeah.
light up because I
Exactly.
love it so much. And
Yeah.
that means more to me than making X amount of dollars or being able to say that I have X job or X title, because those things never meant that much to me. If it means something
Mhm.
to someone else, then that's fine. Like that, I'm not saying that it's a
Mhm.
bad thing, but
Yeah.
it's for
Mhm.
us to know what is our own measure of success versus what society says is
Mhm.
successful. Because then we have to remember that we're also showing that to our kids,
Yeah.
and that may make them make decisions in a certain way because they feel like that is the only way they will be successful, or that is what is expected of them versus allowing them to develop their own measure of success.
Which is really stepping outside of the cultural mores, asking ourselves, is what we want really aligned? And are we showing that to our kids? And this lifestyle enables it because you step off that conventional path. Maybe it's more acceptable than it used to be, but at the same time, it's still unconventional. And you're having to explain yourself and tell people why your kids are going to be okay, even though you're like, I don't know, are they going to be okay? And people tell me they'll be okay. I don't know. But you're going off this conventional path and you have to decide for yourself what is the purpose of this? And is it valuable for my kids? Because I'm doing this really big thing. And I guess that's for everybody to decide. And I'm with you. I don't think there is one right way to homeschool. There's not one right way to learn or to be educated. I have a kiddo right now. She's 20 and she told me the other day, "Mom, I'm homeschooling myself through college." And I went, "Really?" She took a year of college and she said, "I don't want to do this program and I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I don't want to invest heavy 5 or 6 figures into a program that I'm not convinced is really what I want and is only gonna or it's gonna give me anything more than just a lot of debt at the end." So she's handpicking all these classes and loving it and not being bound by the learning outcomes that don't necessarily serve her. And she's really finding her thing. And I appreciate that our conversation right now really challenges people that are like, no, but I see the value of post-secondary education. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it doesn't have a place. There are some professions you will need to go down that path in order to become a physician or to become an RN or to become many things. But it's not a guarantee of your happiness. What makes you feel purposeful today, right now? What helps your 8-year-old feel purposeful right now? And yeah, redefine that version of success based on what you believe is the best thing for you right now.
There is more than one way to get there, and none of those ways are the wrong way. It's always what is going to be the best way for the individual. And I think now we have the luxury of doing things that work for us as individuals versus years ago where you didn't have that luxury. It's just like you had to go to school. You
Mhm.
couldn't just pick certain courses. Say, I am going to build on my interests and create something for myself.
Yeah.
It was just you had to do the thing that's that box or nothing else. But now you have the ability to build your own education. If you want to go the traditional route, that is great because, as you say, if you're going to be a doctor, you
Mhm.
need to go the traditional route. You cannot build that on your own. Please don't.
Yeah. Yes, there is a movie on that, isn't there? Catch Me If You Can, Leo DiCaprio, and I forget the real person behind that story, but he actually did play a doctor in real life and got away with it for a while.
Oh,
Anyways,
no.
not recommended. I have 60 cousins on both sides of the family combined, and I was the first person to graduate from college. It was a real shift in what was expected of me, especially as a female in my family. So that was unusual for me to choose to do that. I don't see it as a better choice. I see it as the one that fit me at the time because I wanted to become a registered nurse. And yet I come from a background where there's a lot of hard work and grit and entrepreneurship and capacity to do some very meaningful things that had nothing to do with post-secondary school. So I want to reinforce the notion that I genuinely believe you can live a purposeful life with or without post-secondary school. Ultimately, we have about 90 years, hopefully, and we'll know at the end of 90 years that we lived a purposeful life because, and you listener, fill in the blank. What will have helped you live a purposeful life? Maybe it is post-secondary school. Maybe it's not, but you get to decide your version of success. You've learned to listen to yourself over this last year in a more complete way. You spend time with yourself and you ask yourself, what do you really want? For the listener, what is one small practice that would help them stay more grounded in their body and their emotions?
I'm going to tell them something that's very
Mhm.
hard for most of us. Probably not going to like it because I know you hear it all the time. Put your phone away. I know. But I was never attached to my phone that much anyway, so it wasn't hard for me. But I find because we are so connected these days, we don't realize how heavily influenced we are by those around us, those outside of us. So it's
Mhm.
hard to hear your own voice, your own
Mhm.
thoughts. Like, what do you really feel? What do you really think outside of everyone else? And that it's a hard thing to discover, but just give yourself a break from it every once in a while and just sit with yourself. It's going to be uncomfortable. It will be. But once you get used to that discomfort, eventually you will start to hear yourself and you'll be happy you did. You will.
Intriguing that the Gen Z generation is moving into that. Because that same kiddo I told you about earlier, the one that's homeschooling herself, is very difficult to access now because she's got a flip phone and she's, Mom, I can't be on my phone all the
My
time.
husband has like the Nokia 3310.
Yes.
Yes, that's the phone he has.
Yes. That is
Yes.
so wild. That is a very healthy shift in a meaningful, purposeful direction. So what's changed most in how you relate to yourself?
Oh, what's changed the most? I think the biggest thing that's changed is I used to say I'm okay with disappointing people, but I don't think I was. But I think now I have actually gotten to the point where I am okay with disappointing other people, with having other people just not be okay with the decision I'm making. But, oh, I don't think that's right, or you should do something else, or something like that. I'm okay with that.
What would surprise people most about the inner work that you've been doing?
Oh, what would surprise people the most? It's I think we might all know this, but when you start to go in, you're going to see parts of yourself that you don't like. You're going to be disappointed in yourself in certain areas, and it's to get comfortable with knowing that we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to see things and remember things and do things that might not necessarily 100% align with what you wanted for yourself or who you think you are or who you think you should be, but that's okay because we're all human. We're not infallible. And it's
Mhm.
just to get used to the fact that it's not all going to be perfect. It's not inner work doesn't look like how it looks on social media where it's all zen and it's all, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I discovered this lovely thing about myself and it's so amazing. It's gritty, it's dirty, it's sad, it breaks you apart. You might shatter yourself into 1,000 pieces, but you will be able to put it back together
Yeah, that's
because
so
yeah,
interesting you say that because that's part of the video that I'll be recording today is about how do you recognize what your 1% pivot could be? And it usually is steeped in the struggle. What is the thing you see yourself repeating over? And my next question for you is how are you able or how could you encourage then others to go inward and listen to that quiet inner voice, to really listen to themselves? When they might actually be afraid to find out that they're not perfect.
it is compassion and forgiveness for yourself.
Mm,
Like, we give it freely to others. A friend called you and said, "Oh, I did this thing and I messed up." You're going to be compassionate and you are going to tell them that it's okay and they can forgive themselves and they can move forward because it's not the end of the world. But even for myself, that was always one of the hardest things for me to do for myself,
yeah, me
was
too.
to forgive myself for previous mistakes.
It's still
Because
for me,
and it's not
for
an
sure.
easy thing to do to forgive ourselves because we are so hard on ourselves for various reasons, but it's taking the time and I still struggle with it sometimes. It's not always like, "Oh, I made a mistake," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm forgiven," and I move on. No, it's gonna keep creeping back up, but it's every time it comes up, you just say, "You know what? I remember. Yes, it happened. That's okay, but we're moving on now."
So good.
So it's the
So
constant cycle of forgiving yourself, knowing that, yes, you made the mistake, but it taught you something. You
yeah, and I
learned
see
something.
sometimes people really frustrated with, say, and this is a common one, so bring this one up, with yelling at their kids, and they're like, "Oh, I told myself yesterday that was the last day. I will never do that again." And so then they need to go to the process of forgiving themselves, but also it's valuable for them to actually go into the deep roots of it and say, "Why does this keep happening?" And looking at the roots and getting self-aware, learning about the patterns that helps you. Yeah, it feels uncomfortable really looking at it closely, but it really does help you to see what's really going on. And oftentimes it's not really a behavior shift that's as much required as the intention to look at it honestly and with compassion and go deep, go really deeply to see why does this keep perpetuating? And that compassion is required at the moment of why it started.
Once you know why, then you can start to solve the problem. But if you don't know why or where it's coming from, because if you keep repeating the one behavior that you don't want to repeat over and over again, you can't change it because you don't know why you're doing it because it comes from somewhere.
I just love your clarity, Latoya, and you just have an inner wisdom that I just enjoy being around. And you, in the beginning, wanted to be unapologetically yourself. I remember you using that phrase. And now I see it as, yeah, that's just you. That's not just a phrase. How have you seen yourself live into that more?
I think in recent times, it's just being like your daughter, just like being unavailable. Just no, it's just if I'm not in a it's knowing where I am in myself. If I'm not in a place mentally or emotionally to take on somebody else's stuff, then I am just not available without explanation. I won't answer my phone. I won't respond to text messages. I rarely go on social media unless I'm doing something for the business because I like being with myself, having discovered all the things that I want to do and where I am right now is just I am just happy just sitting in a corner crocheting or knitting or coming up with ideas and doing all these things
Mhm.
versus looking on the outside for something to give me that feeling because it's inside. It's always inside. So once you go in and you find it, you will find that the exterior stuff will start to fall away and you just won't need it anymore.
Latoya, there was a word you used in the beginning. You wanted to come into yourself, or you wanted to become. And I've heard you use that word a lot, becoming. And it has truly been a gift to witness your becoming because I hear that you're choosing integrity or an inner alignment over performance or outside pressures or expectations of you. And it looks like you did not arrive to this story at this time in your life by accident. It emerged because you were listening to yourself, even when it felt uncomfortable. And my hope is that you continue to trust that inner knowing and honoring yourself and allowing your life to unfold with all of the beautiful wisdom that you embody. It is truly a pleasure to know you.
Thank you. I am very grateful that we met because it's been a very a key part of the journey
Mm,
that I just know. I always know that people come in and out of your life for a reason, and there
mhm.
was a reason we connected
Yeah.
because I needed to be walking alongside you at this stage of the journey.
Yeah.
So, I'm happy to have known you.
So beautiful. And I will always be walking alongside with my new toque. So if anybody wants to check out some of the clever crochet patterns and your YouTube channel, because it really is lovely quality and your presence on YouTube is beautiful, where can they find you?
So on YouTube, it's Toya in Stitches. On Instagram, it's toya.in.stitches. And those are the only two places that you would probably find me. So most times, like if you're looking for me, go on YouTube. If you comment anything, I'll get back to you a lot faster than I do on Instagram too. So YouTube is the place to find me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.